Hey friends, welcome back to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. I want to talk with you today about how we can often struggle with wanting to provide our family with healthier foods, with a more natural lifestyle. We want to make sure that our family is in good health, but oftentimes we just become really overwhelmed with all of the information out there and we just begin to feel defeated and we give up. I know I have been there before. Sometimes it just feels like it's too much and it's easier to go back to the way we were living before. But then also when we do that, we have this guilt of knowing deep down that we are not giving our family the best possible. So I want to talk with you today about how do we handle these feelings and how can we move forward when we are really just feeling defeated. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi friend, do you dream of having a garden but you don't know where to start? Do you want to switch to more natural products but feel overwhelmed by all the options? Do you believe that a holistic lifestyle would help your special needs kiddo but you're daunted by all the information out there? Welcome to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast, where you will learn how to work towards your dream for homesteading, gardening, and holistic living in small, simple steps that won't overwhelm you. Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a wife, Jesus follower, and mom to some amazing kids. As some of my kids began experiencing health struggles and developmental delays, I decided it was time to switch to a holistic lifestyle. I quickly became stressed out and burnt out, feeling like I needed to change everything at once. I finally realized that I had to start making one small change at a time, then build from there. I learned to walk this holistic journey in a way that works for me and my family, without stress or overwhelm or constantly feeling like I wasn't doing enough. If you're ready to hear from another mama who understands what it's like to have no time and who can help you make changes towards better health for your family in a way that works for your specific life, then this is the podcast for you. Pop in your earbuds, reheat your coffee for the third time, and let's do this. All right, so I know this is something that I have struggled with, and I know that I have talked to some of you and you have told me the same thing, that it can be very confusing to try to figure out what is the best option for your family. What is the right thing to do? You know, you do some research, you do some reading, and you hear that this thing is amazing. This is what's going to help your kids. This is what's going to give you good health. And then a week later, you see something else that contradicts that. And both of them have research proving that they are right. And then you're just like, I don't know what to do. So you kind of just become overwhelmed and frozen in that overwhelm, and then you do nothing at all. I have done that before. I have struggled with that. It can be very, very overwhelming, especially as someone who loves to read, loves to learn, loves to research. I have had times where I have done so much research and learning that then I just feel very confused. So I go into this wanting to read this book or listen to this podcast or hear from this author and thinking, okay, I'm going to have a way forward. This is going to give me something new to try. And I end up just feeling more confused because they contradict something that I had learned about a month before. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, what is the right thing to do here? I know I can't be alone in this because, like I said, I've heard from some of you that this is a struggle for you. It can be very overwhelming. And like I said, oftentimes we end up just doing nothing at all because we don't know what to do. And I want to talk with you about how I come out of that, how I actually learn to take action and move forward and make progress whenever I'm stuck in that feeling of information overload and of just being very, very confused. So the way I do this, and first I want to preface this by saying that one thing that I think is very helpful is if you are a Christian, really praying and asking the Lord to guide and direct your steps has been very helpful. Before I say all of the rest of this is kind of like a bonus tip, I guess. And that is to just, when you get all this information, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling confused, just stop and pray. Ask the Lord to give you peace and clear direction. Because what I have found to be true is that oftentimes I will be in that state of confusion or of being unsure of what the next best step is for myself, for my family, for my kids, all of that. And if I will just kind of slow down, process the information, and then really pray through it and ask the Lord to give me a clear direction, more times than not, I am aware of what it is I need to do moving forward. So I want to encourage you also just to trust your mom intuition. God gives us that. And I believe that if we can really feel that and say, okay, this is what feels best for my child, and I'm going to try this. Of course, if your child has medical needs and various issues, by all means, absolutely consult your doctor as well. But I'm talking about lifestyle changes here. I'm not talking about trying a new medication or anything like that. But if your child has very complex medical needs, then you probably do need to consult your doctor. But when we're talking about these lifestyle changes, changing out products, trying this way of eating, all of that, a lot of times I just have to pray, ask the Lord for that clear direction, and then trust my intuition that I really do believe that God gives us as moms to know what is best for our kids. Because that's the thing. We know our kids so intimately. We know what's going on with them. We know, okay, when they eat this food, this seems to bother them. We just know all of those details. And so oftentimes we just have that kind of sense about us that, okay, this is probably not going to be a good fit for them because we know them so well. So I do want to encourage you in that as well before we even get started with the rest of that. But if you're stuck in this state of like, oh my goodness, there's so much information, it's contradicting, I don't know where to start, this is what I think you should do. First and foremost, you should decide what is most important to you. So what is the one area that you want to see change in the most? I think this is important to determine because if you're like me, you get very excited, you take in a lot of information, and then you don't know what to do with it. Where if we can say, what is one area that I want to learn about? What is one area that I feel like my family or myself or my child is really struggling in their health? And what is that I can focus on that area first and foremost and kind of let the other stuff fall to the side until you have the time and the capacity to handle it. Another question I will ask myself is what would make my life easier? So what kind of change, what kind of different type of improvement would make my life easier or would remove any kind of guilt I have that would improve my family's health or my health the most? So we're really looking for what is going to give us the most bang for our buck, basically. What is it that I have the capacity to do? What is it that if I saw improvement in this area, it would make the most impact on my life, on the chaos level in my home, on my family schedule, on my child's health, whatever the area is that you're looking at, what's going to give you the most impact? And then just pick that one thing and focus on it. What I like to do with this is because if you're like me, I'm an ideas person. I always have ideas. So I don't want to lose those good ideas. I don't want to lose those things that I want to come back to later. So what I will do is like pick the one area that I really want to focus on, and then I'll just sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and I will brain dump the rest of the ideas. I typically will keep it in a notebook. I have a lot of notebooks at my house, various, like a podcast notebook, a health notebook. I like to formulate recipes for our home products. So I'll have like a notebook for recipes, and I will just take like that, let's say the health notebook, and I will just brain dump all of the ideas of maybe it's things that I saw that I want to learn more about, or this area that I really want to work on, or this routine or schedule that I think will really help my child, but I don't have the time or the capacity right now to deal with it. But at the same time, I'm reminding my brain that it is safely on a piece of paper in a notebook that I'm not going to lose, so I can kind of release that mental stress and strain off of my brain by writing it down, and then I know that I have that idea safely stored for a later time. And that has really, really helped me. And the thing I like about this is that I think the reason why I like to keep it in a notebook is because if I just have a random piece of paper, honestly, it's going to get thrown in the trash, or a child's going to draw a picture on it or something like that. Whereas if I have it in a designated notebook, I know it's safe there, and I like it because I can just go back to that specific notebook and add to that list as I think about things. As I come across more things, just add those things to the list, and then I know that it is safe there, which is really, really helpful. Okay, so step 2 would be to write out one change that you can make in this area. So you've picked the one area that you want to focus on. Now, boil it down to one change in that area. Let's say it's that you want to give your children healthier foods. So that's a pretty big goal. What is one change you can make in that area? Maybe that change is that you want to make them some homemade gummies instead of buying them store-bought gummy fruit snacks or something like that. So I really like doing it this way because it's breaking it down into very small, simple steps. Now, when it comes to this step, it is very important as you're writing out the one change you can make for that day that you keep this step to 15 minutes or less a day. You don't want to over-research this. You don't want to overthink it. You don't want to plan out something where it's going to require you an hour's worth of work, because the likelihood that you're actually going to accomplish that is not very high. So keeping it to a small task, 15 minutes or less a day, that is going to really help you to actually see some wins and going to give you that encouragement and that motivation to keep moving forward. And it's going to remind your brain that you can actually do this, that you can actually make these changes in your life. So 15 minutes or less a day. You've got to write out that task. This is the one change I can make today. to work towards that goal that I have, let's say, again, we're going with healthier foods. Well, today the one step is I'm going to spend 15 minutes making healthier fruit snacks for my kids. That's your goal for today. And then your kids will have those to eat on for several days to come. Store them in the refrigerator. They'll last longer. And that is what you're going to do. The key to getting started, in my opinion, is to keep it simple. And then once you have this goal mastered, so let's say you have now been working on making those fruit gummies, you've got that accomplished, then sit down and say, okay, tomorrow, what's one thing I can do for 15 minutes or less? It could be 5 minutes. It could be 2 minutes. It doesn't matter. Just make sure it's less than 15 minutes a day. What can I do tomorrow to work towards this goal? Again, keep it very small. Make sure that you're making these small goals. I cannot stress that enough, because that is what's going to help you to really begin to shift your belief that you cannot switch to a healthier lifestyle, or that you cannot make this change for your family in your family's dynamics or whatever it is. If you can actually begin to accomplish these small habits every single day, it's going to help you to believe that you actually are capable of switching up whatever it is that you're wanting to work on for your family. And then number 3 is, as you work through this process, just remember that you do need to set realistic expectations and focus on progress. So be proud of any improvements that you see and go with good enough. It does not have to be perfect. Again, we're falling back to don't overthink, don't over research. Keep it simple, keep it basic, and then really try to look back and say, okay, what did I do in the last week in those 15 minutes every single day? Wow, I accomplished a lot. And encourage yourself in that, instead of saying, oh, I wish I could have done more. I wish I was doing this. There's always more we can do. There's always more that we wish we were doing. We can always improve. But I think that focusing on that and beating ourselves up for what we're not doing is not really going to help us in the long run. It's not helping us to improve. Really, it's more likely to lead us back to falling into old habits that we don't want. So in my opinion, focusing on what you have accomplished and really just being proud of yourself and saying, wow, I did that. We are making progress in the right direction. I think that celebrating those wins is really important. And if it's something that you need to celebrate those wins with someone else, maybe even sharing it with your spouse, maybe sharing it with a friend, come into our Facebook community and share with us. We'd love to hear as well what those wins are for you, what it is that you're working towards, and what those different 15-minute tasks have been for you that week and what you've accomplished. So I think that we are all learning new info and we're adapting to what's best for the individuals in our home. And the goal is to always be improving. It is not to be perfect. None of us are ever going to arrive. None of us are ever going to have it all figured out. I've had times where we've tried something, switched to this type of food, or I've tried this for a family member, or we've tried this new product and it failed. It just didn't work. I've had high hopes that something was really going to make a huge impact on my family or myself or my child, and then it just didn't. And I think that's part of life, and it's okay. It's okay if you try something and it doesn't work. I think oftentimes we feel like, oh my goodness, I wasted time, I wasted resources, whatever. But in my opinion, the way I've really learned to look at that is it's just part of learning and growing. It's part of trying to switch to a healthier lifestyle. It's part of discovering what works for your specific family. And sometimes that requires failures, because how can you know what does work if you're not figuring out along the way what doesn't work? I hope this has been encouraging for you. I also hope it has been helpful. If you decide to do this, you're going to pick that one goal. You're going to sit down every day and choose a 15-minute or less task, and then you're going to celebrate the wins along the way. Then please head over to our Facebook community and share with us. What is your 15-minute goal for tomorrow? What is your one big area that you're going to focus on for improving your family's health? I would love to hear from you. You can find us at bit.ly/motherhood-community, or there's a link down in the show notes below. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you back next time. Hey Mama, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who is wanting to live more holistically without the overwhelm? Also, don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. It blesses and encourages me to know that this show is helping you. All right, friends, it's time for me to go work in the garden and make some homemade bone broth. I will see you back next week.